Hello and welcome to KHTS AM 1220, your hometown station. I am your host, Bristol Biggs, with Amber Raskin, and this is SCVI's Our Way on the Highway. This morning we have a special guest, Paul Strickland, co-host of KHTS's Thursday Matenee at noon, which I believe doesn't exist anymore.
No, it doesn't. Well, there is a Thursday afternoon, but the show that I had is not on Thursday.
But it was on for a lot of years, wasn't it? How long was it?
About 10 years.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's all about the arts in Santa Clarita.
Oh, okay. Cool. So he has also been a wonderful advocate for multiple schools across Santa Clarita Valley. So we're going to be diving right into your experiences. How are you feeling today, Paul?
With my hands. I feel with my hands.
Oh, okay. That's always good. That's always good to not...
No, I'm feeling great.
That's good.
Thank you very much for
That's
asking.
good.
How about
No
yourself?
problem. I'm feeling wonderful.
All right.
How about you, Amber?
I'm feeling great. I'm excited to hear Paul talk about his experience with schools.
Okay.
We've known him for a long time, and
Right.
he has been an education advocate since the first day I met him over 10 years ago. And I'm excited to hear what he's going to share with us today about that.
All right, cool. So, okay. So how and why did you begin to be involved in schools in the first place?
Well, I got involved in schools because I had 3 kids, and they were really back to back to back, and they were like 2 years apart. And they were going to Sulphur Springs School, Sulphur Springs Elementary. And ultimately, actually, my career was in animation. And so I would drive all the way into LA and then come back every day. But I was very interested in their education, and I got involved early on with PTA and so forth. And then around late 90s, I think it was 1994, mid-90s, 1995, I actually ran for school board at Sulphur Springs. I was asked to run by a group of people because I was very much involved and interested. And I said yes, and I got involved, and I won that election at Sulphur Springs, and I was a school board member there for 4 years. And then later on, I ran for Hart when John Hassel's seat was vacant, and I won that seat, and I was there for almost 12 years. The elections in school boards at that time were odd years. Most elections are in even years. These were odd years, and in 2013, I moved to Florida, and so my term was up then. And instead of running for re-election, I resigned and I moved away.
Huh. So how long have you been involved in? Been on school boards? Have you been?
Well, the
involved?
total there was 4, maybe almost 15 years. 15 years.
Oh wow. So
Yeah.
And how long have you been involved in animation?
And animation over 30 years.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So that's like 45 years that you spent, on school and animation.
Yeah. Well, they were together, of course. And then I was also an arts commissioner for the city of Santa Clarita for 4 years.
Were doing this all at the same time?
All at the same time.
Wow.
I know.
Okay. That's a lot of handle like that.
Well,
And kids
I know,
and,
but yeah.
Wow. So, and then you also had a radio show.
I did.
Yeah, radio show here on KHTS.
Yes, yeah.
What was it about? The arts?
The arts.
What you said?
Yeah, and it was really interesting. It was because I found that there's so many people involved in the arts in Santa Clarita. I read a statistic once where almost a third of all the heads of households in this valley work in the entertainment business in some way or another. And I never had to worry about getting guests. A lot of my guests really were from schools. Like if a school play, I would have the teacher come in with students and perform. A lot of it were musicians that I would meet, because there are a lot of kids that want to be singers or in music, involved in music in some capacity. Okay. So never had to worry about guests. And I also had people behind the scenes. I had craftsmen from people who did sets and so forth. And it was an interesting show.
Yeah, so you mostly...
I had Amber there.
Yeah, that's how we met. I was a guest on the show a few times.
Yes, you
wow,
were.
Cool.
Yeah, about once a month I would do about schools, about education. There's always arts going on in education.
Combining your love of arts and your love of education.
Right. And what was so nice is that Carl and Jerry, as you know, are so... they're so in tune with what's going on in our valley and the community, and there's always something going on, and I would never have to lack for finding someone.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. So you kind of combine kind of a arts and education kind of thing in not only the radio show, but did you ever incorporate that into, when you were on the school board?
Yes, I did. I certainly did. I was always an arts advocate on the school board, and I would always suggest that the arts be involved in anything that any kind of startup programs, that we always think about the arts, and also even when they were building schools about having some kind of art involved.
Cool. So, yeah, I think it's really important to have arts in schools, too. It's really important for people to be able to express themselves.
Can I ask
in a lot of
why?
ways.
I'm just curious what you guys, and I agree with both of you that arts are important in schools, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on why.
Well, I really, truly believe that if you really look at history, you will find out that really the arts were really deeply involved in a lot of changes, important, for instance, the Renaissance. And it seems that in schools, at least over my lifetime, I can see that less and less art was actually a subject that was taught in elementary schools, and that's kind of dwindled. It became part of the educational process. I can understand that. Intellectually, I can understand it. Maybe emotionally, I can't too much, but you can see that it's lost. So any kind of time where you can say you can have a painting that you can see, or a statue that you can see, some visual things, and have the arts being involved in any kind of lesson plan that you're having.
Yeah, I agree with you in that, as I said, that arts are about communication and self-expression.
Yeah.
And so there's so much that we can communicate through the arts, which make it an integral part of really any project we do, which is why we weave it into the schools that we have so much, because it's the way you make something aesthetically pleasing. It's the way you make something palatable. It's the way you make something understood that might not be understood. And they say peace comes through the arts, which is why many times, even though we might be at war, there's still something around the arts that keeps us connected. It's really beautiful and important to our society as a
It's
whole.
not all about science.
Yeah, and science is important too,
Science, of
but
course,
it's not. But it's
Yeah, exactly.
again, arts are the thread that weaves through everything. So even science, like you need that. They need an art component,
Yeah.
and people often overlook that. So it's really an important conversation to have regularly and often, and remind people. And on the elementary school note, I don't even think I understand it intellectually, because when I look at the world that you're inheriting, the old days of working in the factories, going and being told what to do, those are really fading away. And what's happening is you're being asked, which was reserved for a select few in the past, you're going to be asked to figure out what to do and be entrepreneurial, even if you're an employee at a job, in your mindset. And it used to be that there was a prescription. You do this, you'll be okay. In many different areas, not just you work for one person for 20 years, but the many areas, like there was a handbook about what to do. That's fading away. And the people who are succeeding are going to be the people in the creative class. So being creative and arts, they say like you should take an acting class no matter what profession you're going into, because it's not really about choosing that as a profession. It's about learning how to be well-spoken, learning how to be confident, learning how to express yourself. All of those things are so critical to the people that are going to help shape our society in your generation. And so the arts are, I think, intellectually just as important too. And there's been a trend in the past 20 years from A Nation at Risk was the beginning of that trend, to really focus on test scores and accountability. And I absolutely think that there's something to that. Like, we need to make sure that our schools and our teachers and are accountable that the kids learn the material, but we also need, and so I think the pendulum swung this way, and now it's swinging. All of education is swinging a little back to put the arts back in, because there needs to be a balance, in my opinion, that we need to have a little of both.
Well, it used to be that you had a job for a lifetime. Our parents had that. You had a job for a lifetime, and that was it. They knew exactly what. So on what you're talking about, they knew precisely what they were going to do, how long their career would last, and that was going to be it. But we're living in this electronic age where we don't even know what's going to possibly happen. It's changing so rapidly, like you're saying, that you really have to be prepared. And definitely the arts are very important.
So rapidly. I said in our graduation speech this last year that our seniors from this year, they were in 3rd grade when the iPhone came out. Like, we didn't know. Think of how much the iPhone has changed what we do. And
still changing.
I know.
I've got an update.
So if it changed that much since 3rd grade for this generation, imagine what's coming, because it's only accelerating. It's not slowing down. So they have to learn how to keep up with that change. And I laugh at my own kids when they know how to do all these things on the phone. And I'm pretty technologically savvy myself, but they are still digital natives. They get and they're not afraid to figure it out, and that's what your generation needs the most. And I think that's what the arts really help, is not to be afraid to figure it out and come up with something.
I can kind of see how people can kind of be afraid to get out there.
Yeah.
And learn how to do that. And sometimes the only way to really learn how to do that, and you can be taught all these things in school, but really the only way that you're going to get critical thinking skills, that you're going to get, a philosophical or a moral compass, is if you get out and you learn those things from other people, because they reflect off those people.
It is critical thinking and problem solving. That's the world we're going to be in. And you have to know those skills. You have to know how to do them, and the arts are very important. If you can stand up before, you talk about acting, if you can stand up before a group of people and not be afraid and be able to speak and have something, of course, to say that's interesting, you have it made. You really do.
Yeah.
And you can't really let that go by the wayside, the whole idea of the arts. So it's really important. I remember I got my kids involved in acting in the local theater and group here, Canyon Theater.
Yeah, I remember seeing you in a show there.
Yeah. And so, and there are families that do that. And those kids, honestly, today, they're just unafraid to speak in public, and it's really worked.
Yeah, beautiful.
Definitely, that's awesome. And so, let's kind of like drive into your kind of, how do you call it? Like, there's a word for it, something in animation.
Oh, you want to talk about his animation career?
Okay.
Yeah, because I was actually kind of interested in that.
Animation. Okay.
Yeah, but it's just like all the information and facts that were given on your.
So I'll briefly tell you about that. I came to California to be an actor. We're talking about acting, all right? So, but for me, it was really, I did all the things that people like that do. I drove a taxi cab, I waited tables, I bussed tables, I did everything like that. And so I met a friend, I had another friend, and we were both interested in acting and trying to find something. And so I got a job at Hanna-Barbera polishing the cells in the camera department before they actually were put on film. And so this is a job where you had to take little styluses, they're little pieces of ivory, and chip off the extraneous paint, and then you took these chemical things and you would wipe the cells, and who knows what's gone through my body, but I'm still here. So anyway, I did that, and I did that for about 5 weeks and got laid off, and because that's the nature of the business at least at that time. And so I got called back, and I kept finding other jobs that kind of worked my way up. And I counted once, I went through a total of 6 corporate buyouts, 2 forced strikes, and they were selectively, studios that were struck were selectively done. And you had to march and carry signs and things like that.
And you're forced to do it. Wow.
And I had a friend who had a sign that said, "Act like nothing's wrong." Anyway, then there were 2 forced strikes and maybe 12 layoffs, and one was 2.5 years. So I got my real estate license in 1991, so I had that to augment. My wife did too. And so when I was laid off, I would go into work in real estate. Unfortunately, I was lucky enough to either or do some loans or something like that to get by. But I ended up with a career where I worked my way up to becoming a producer, and I did a lot of really wonderful shows. I did at Hanna-Barbera. I was there 16 years, and I worked on a pup named Scooby-Doo, Jetsons, a Pac-Man, the Smurfs, and then from there I went to Warner Brothers, where I did. Actually, I worked with Steven Spielberg on
Oh, wow.
Tiny Toons, and I was head of production for that. So I really had a nice job.
Tell us about what that's like working with Steven Spielberg. How
that's
amazing!
Absolutely amazing. And he was hands-on.
Wow.
And he would come in and he would approve everything from. He would approve the storyboards. He would approve the designs for the characters. Actually, what he liked the Warner Brothers characters because they had an edginess to them.
Mm-hmm.
And here he was with his own place on Universal lot with Amblin. He was actually probably, I think, doing some things for Disney at the same time. And this was a Warner Brothers project, so this was through Warner Brothers. And so he actually always liked the Warner Brothers characters. And these were like smaller, younger versions of the old 6-minute theatricals that you used to see in movies. You probably didn't see them, but they were, like Bugs Bunny. And,
Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, of course.
and
He's
then-
probably too young, but
Oh, I know him.
so,
okay, nice. I'm impressed.
so we did.
Yeah.
So the whole show was based on those, and we did 65 episodes of that. And then from there, I went to Universal Studios and worked with Shelley Duvall's bedtime stories and the Saturday morning version of Back to the Future. And from there, I went to Marvel. I did Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, and Iron Man. Those are the Saturday morning versions in the early 90s.
Oh, wow.
What was your favorite part of working in animation? What was the best thing you did and the best part of what you...
I don't know. The favorite thing that I really liked the most to do actually was probably Tiny Toons. I loved that show. I just did. I really loved that show.
What about it did you love?
I love the characters themselves, and I had to do all the research on them. We had to go back and find the directors who did the originals, theatricals, and see how they were done, how they were directed, how they were written, and how the movement of all the characters. And that was really, we imitated all of that for the younger version of them, and to be involved in that was just amazing. I look back on that because it just kind of went so fast. I look back on that and say, wow,
I know.
I really did that.
It's funny sometimes when you do something amazing like that, it's not until hindsight that you say, oh, wow,
'Cause
that
once
was
you're into it, you're
magical.
just locked
You're
into
just
it.
doing it, yeah. And then you
Exactly.
look back and go, wow, that was magical. Yeah, there's some stuff like that for me too.
Yeah, I've always kind of wanted to go into animation.
You can still do it. What are you talking about? Always kind of wanted. You can.
Well, I mean, I tried to, but, animating, I guess, wasn't my forte.
Maybe when we come back, he can give us some tips if somebody wanted to go into that business.
Yeah, that'd be a wonderful
this
idea.
next-
But,
After we go to commercial.
after we go. We still have a little bit more time, don't we? All right. Let's wrap it up here. So, I've been Bristol Biggs, Our Way on the Highway, KHTS AM 1220.